The Jamal Adams saga is officially over. The safety gets what he wants. He gets traded to the Seattle Seahawks, and Joe Douglas once again showing why he was a rising star in the NFL. I really believed in him as a general manager, and he got this deal done. And are you sitting down? The Jets received 2 first-round picks, one in 2021, one in 2022, a third-round pick in 2021, and Bradley McDougald for Jamal Adams, and a fourth-round pick of the Jets in 2022. This was an incredible move by Joe Douglas. This sets up the Jets for the long term. Joe Douglas also had that 6-year contract. He's playing the long game for this team. There's so much to get into, and I have a theory about one of the reasons this trade was made. But let's get to the obvious. Jamal Adams, I was saying yesterday that the team should do everything to try to get this deal done. Lock him up long term. But as a front office, you have to realize 2 things. Number 1, does the player want to be there? And I think that the Jets came to the point where they felt that even if they gave Jamal Adams a contract, he didn't want to be there for the long term. And second, what could you get in return? When Joe Douglas said he was open to trade Jamal Adams, he said it had to be for a haul, and he got it. I want to remind people that as great as Jamal Adams is, and in my opinion, he's right now the best defensive back in football, he does not play a premier position. He wanted to get over $15 million a year. And the Jets were able to get 2 first-round picks, a third-round pick, and a very underrated safety. Bradley McDougald is a very good young safety, was one of the top 4 cover safeties according to Pro Football Focus last year. You watch tape, he flies around, he makes a lot of plays. And now all of a sudden that Jets secondary with Marcus May, with McDougald, they had the great draft pick with Ashton Davis. They have a very athletic back end. And I understand that Jamal Adams, there will be an absence next year. But if you look at the long game, the Jets won this trade. Because you look at recent history, the first reaction today is, I can't believe the Jets made this deal. It happened with Miami. Oh, I can't believe they made all these deals. They traded Laramie Tunsil for first-round picks. They traded Minkah Fitzpatrick for first-round picks. You looked at the Raiders a couple years ago with Khalil Mack. Oh, they're crazy trading him. But then you look a year later, or 2 years in the Raiders' case, and you go, that was pretty smart. The Raiders rebuilt their roster. They got a good running back. They got a good defensive piece. You look at the Dolphins, they had a very good draft this last year. They look in a great position to compete to win the AFC East. And if you look at the Jets now, all of a sudden, they have a dearth of draft picks moving forward. This is something that the Jets haven't had in the last decade. And more importantly, they have a general manager that seems competent in making those draft picks. You could have all the draft picks in the world, but if you don't feel you have the guy to make the picks, you're in a lot of trouble. And Joe Douglas, to me, showed in the first draft he was very competent, not only getting great value, but able to get more picks by trading down. And now all of a sudden the Jets have a lot of ammo. And look, I understand that this hurts for this season. But realistically, if you were looking at the Jets' schedule this year, if everything went perfect and they played to their best, you would be hoping for an 8-8 season. And Joe Douglas realizes he's in this for the long haul. He needs to build a complete roster. This offseason was all about building the offensive line. Next year, he can build through the draft and add weapons for Sam Darnold, or I have another opinion. There could be another reason to this trade. This could be a backup plan for the Jets. Because you have to remember, and I love Sam Darnold. I will defend Sam Darnold, and everyone who's watched me or listened to me, they know how much I really believe in this kid. I think he's going to be a great quarterback in this league. But if you're Joe Douglas, and Sam Darnold does not have a good year again this year, if he has to miss time again, he's never played a full season. If he isn't healthy, if it's not working and you have to hire a new head coach, all of a sudden the Jets have a good contingency plan. if they don't believe in Sam Darnold, the new coach doesn't love Sam Darnold, you look at next year's draft class, there's a certain guy named Trevor Lawrence who's arguably the best quarterback prospect we've seen since, I don't know, Andrew Luck. And now all of a sudden the Jets have 4 first-round picks over the next 2 years to trade. It gives them a good contingency plan. If they don't believe in Darnold going forward, and I do believe in Darnold, but you have to understand, if Darnold does not develop this year or doesn't have a great season this year, all of a sudden the Jets could be in a position where they say, okay, Trevor Lawrence is an A-plus prospect. We think the best Sam Darnold can be is a B-plus quarterback in the NFL. He can be good, we can win games, but a guy like Trevor Lawrence could change the fortunes of our franchise. I think that is something about this trade that we have to consider. Because now all of a sudden you look at the Jets, they have a lot of leverage. They have a lot of capital to go up and get a Trevor Lawrence if they need to next year. Now, if it breaks right, Sam Darnold plays great, he looks like he's the franchise quarterback, all of a sudden now you have draft pieces to put around him. You have draft pieces to get a wide receiver, to get an edge rusher, to get a cornerback. So this was a great deal for the Jets. And look, it hurts. It's going to hurt in the short term for the Jets fans as well because you love Jamal Adams. You love the passion he plays with. He's arguably the best draft pick they've had in the last decade. Really, he is. I mean, if Sam Darnold works out, he's going to be the best draft pick because he's a quarterback and they have more value. But it hurts because you love Jamal, you love the attitude he had, you love what he brought to the field every single week. But the Jets are also in a position, too, where they've been bad for a decade. They need to get this right. And I have to give credit once again to Joe Douglas. And I get Jamal was upset about taking calls. But when you're the general manager and a team offers you this for a player that you're going to have to pay a lot of money for in a position where it's not exactly a premium position in the NFL, and you get back 2 firsts, a third, and a very good starting safety for a guy who clearly does not want to be in the Jets building. Now, does Joe Douglas deserve some blame for how the contract was handled? Yes. Do the New York Jets, did they handle the contract poorly? Yes. As a Jet fan, are you concerned about Adam Gase? Absolutely. And the comments from Jamal Adams didn't exactly help you feel better about your head coach. But the one thing with the Jets that you have to feel good about is you feel like at least Joe Douglas is competent through the draft and making good moves. Now, with the contracts, that's still up for debate. Now, I said the other day, I give him a little bit of leeway because Jamal Adams was his first big contract to negotiate. But you look at what the Jets get back, and it does 2 things. It, A, gives them leverage to put great pieces around Sam Darnold and build through the draft, especially if they have to give Sam Darnold a massive contract in the next 2 years. But it also gives the Jets an incredible contingency plan. If Darnold gets hurt this year, if he doesn't play well, if he doesn't progress, and the Jets end up with a top 5 pick, all of a sudden, if the Jets bring in a new head coach, a great carrot for that head coach could be, hey, we have the draft picks and capital to move up and get a quarterback in a great quarterback class, including getting Trevor Lawrence, who arguably is the best quarterback prospect we've seen in 15 years since Andrew Luck. Every decade and a half, you get one quarterback prospect that really sticks out. And Trevor Lawrence is that guy. Either way, the Jets have put themselves in a great space for the future. Not a good space for 2020, and I understand that. But even coming into this season, the highest expectations realistically was a 500 team. And I understand with the expanded playoffs and a weaker AFC East, they might be competing. They still could compete. If Sam Darnold plays well, they still got a very good safety in this deal. They still have a good team. It's just a brutal schedule. But now the Jets have set themselves up for the future. And if you want great evidence, look at the last two teams that have traded for first-round picks. Look at what the Raiders did with the capital they got back for Khalil Mack. Look at the Bears today, not only paying that premium of draft picks, but the massive contract for Khalil Mack. Was it worth it? Then you look at the Dolphins. They traded Laramie Tunsil. They traded Minkah Fitzpatrick. They got first-round picks back. They hit a home run with the draft. Now, you have to hit a home run with these picks, but after his first draft, I'm feeling pretty good about Joe Douglas handling the draft. So it hurts to see, without question, an elite player leave the Jets. You never want to see someone of that talent leave your football team. But when you see what Joe Douglas got for Jamal Adams in return, this is a good day in the long term for the Jets. It's not going to be a good day in the short term. I understand this doesn't help the Jets for 2020, but you have to look, they're playing the long game. The Jets have a plan. This is something as a fan we have been dying for a decade. We want a plan, and Joe Douglas has a plan, and now he has the pieces through this trade to execute that over the next coming years. Thank you so much for joining us here today. Do you want the latest on the New York Jets and the NFL? Of course you do. That's why you're here. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss all the latest, only from Rich Sports Talk.